Hi, Lauren. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. I really enjoyed watching Panic. I finished it yesterday. Um,
Thank you.
yeah. I know you've previously adapted, or not adapted, but Before I Fall was previously adapted into a movie, which I believe that you produced as
Mhm.
well. But this is like your first time really writing,
Yeah.
like you wrote the
Mhm.
adaptation, you're the showrunner, you've got everything going on here. So, what has it been like to really adapt your own work and see through all those changes?
Well, I mean, obviously it was a tremendous blessing, and gift. I can't think of another studio. It evolved organically. I'm not like a control freak. I'm sure somebody else could have taken the material and done a gorgeous job with it as well. But it was just we've been working on some permutation of Panic for honestly almost since it came out. And so first there was a movie, the movie rights were sold, and then there was a script, and then the script wasn't, it was going to be dead. So then I rewrote that. That was the first script I ever did. Um,
Wow.
I'd always wanted it to be TV. I'd always seen it for TV. For the reason that, you know, the game, although that's the architecture of the narrative, it's actually kind of a show that's not about the game. It's about revealing the game to be false in some ways. So, and it's really about the context that gave rise to it, right? So all of that really belonged more in TV. Again, even when we first sold it at Amazon, I wrote a pilot. They were encouraged me to do that. It really happened step by step. As to the process, I will say, like, none of it could have happened without the other executive producers who basically were filling in and stepping in as essentially the parts of show running that I couldn't do, right? Enabling me to write draft after draft, most of them, some of them not bad in of itself, but you're in constant communication with the changes in the real world, right? Some of them also just bad, I'm sure. And so I really want to emphasize that on the one hand, unfortunately, I can't hide behind like a writer's room or say that the choices were not mine.
Right.
Um, which is scary. And on the other hand, it was so the people around me, the studio, the executives, they wanted and cared so much about the show. They really did parts of my job that I could not do and didn't know how to do. And were incredibly gracious about it. I didn't even realize that until much later on. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So,
that's wonderful.
yeah, no, it
Definitely.
was, yeah. And it really became a collaborative thing. I mean, the actors themselves, they brought so much to the characters that changed so much from the book, right?
Mhm.
Because, you found new dimensions and new aspects of them, and then you have to change the narrative. But that was the joy and the magic of it to me.
Yeah, that's. I was actually gonna ask about that because, like, speaking of choices that were made, I would imagine that some readers might be surprised by relationships that develop differently than they might have expected. So, without spoiling, what was it like for you to then move the perspective from not just like Heather and Dodge and their respective stories to really opening up the story to new members of the town?
Yeah. I mean, if it were up to me, every single person you ever see on screen for like 1 second would have their own complete hero's arc. I mean, this is part of my problem. I think if you added up all the scripts I did, it would be 90 episodes, 100 hours each, and it would be like the most boring story, but it would be about like America, basically. It would be about like the state of culture. Anyway, so I mean, I think they will. I mean, I think hopefully, I think the things that are important to preserve are again the thematic, exploration, and the tone, right? For lack of a better word. And there are new tools to do it with all these incredible actors. And you have to, like there were times where it would have been then wrong for me to insist on a certain version of a character, a certain narrative. And you would have seen that on screen. So I think that I mean, it's also been many years, right? So hopefully I've grown as a writer. The world has changed. The world has called me as a writer to change, and all of us, I think, to change. And hopefully I'm responding to some extent, or as much as I can. So all of those things, take it away from what was strictly and literally written there. However, none of those changes Like if people think the book lies in any of those particular things, that's not correct, right?
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, I definitely, like you mentioned the tone, and I think that like juxtaposition of the adrenaline of the game and then the hopelessness that these towns citizens live in is really the heart of the
right.
story. And
Yeah.
are you hoping to do like another season? Like it's a standalone book, but the ending of the season, and just the game's existence alone suggests just the possibility of more.
I wanted to do another book. I won't get into it, but I had always wanted to do another book. Let me just say it. We don't have to talk about publishing. But yeah, and it was not my editor either. She loved the book, but I would love to. We are not in control of such things. Hopefully people will love it. But yes, I would love to do more. And again, the architecture of a repetitive game, you know, that repeats for younger people,
Mhm.
is kind of a perfect, opportunity for something like that. So hopefully.
Yeah, well, I can't wait for everyone to watch the first season, and hopefully there will be a second for us to enjoy. Have
Yeah.
a great day.